Hi, Brian Moulton here, and I will be your professor for our study of the amazing book of Genesis. What excites me about Genesis is that this is how it all begins. This is the first book of the Bible, obviously, and we learned a great deal about the very dawn of human history and the people who were involved in that history. Archaeology will show us evidences of what happened then, but in Genesis we meet the very people. I get excited about that because there are so many characters in Genesis, whether for good or for ill. They give us, they're models for us in our own lives. Things that we ought to do and things we ought not do. And so we've got a lot to learn from those four great events in Genesis 1 to 11, and then the four great people in Genesis 12 to 50. Of course, there's more than just four people talked about in Genesis 12 to 50, but generally Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph/Judah are the main characters in that narrative. So I'm glad you're part of this class. I'm glad you get to study together with us this term in Genesis. And I really hope and pray that we'll learn a lot, because there's a lot of details to learn. A lot of apologetics go on when we're talking about creation, flood, Noah's Ark, Tower of Babel, the history and purpose of Israel. All of this comes out in the book of Genesis. So we need to learn the details and learn them well, learn the science of Genesis, but at the same time, we always invite the Holy Spirit to change our hearts, to shape us. And we'll work together on that. That's a group effort, and the work of the Trinity in our lives to challenge growth, true Christian growth. Think of it out of the book of Genesis. For myself, I was born and raised in Minnesota, became a Christian at the University of Minnesota in my early 20s, changed my life completely, went into ministry, actually went into seminary studies in Dallas so that I could go into ministry, and was married then, and moved to Dallas. My kids were born in Dallas, Texas, and after seminary, we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, where we enjoyed many years in the pastorate. I was a pastor and just loved that life, working with people in a small, kind of rural, small-town church. But then the Lord moved me to California in the year 2000, and I've been a Bible professor ever since. And Genesis has been important to that. All these years of teaching Genesis have taught me a lot, but I've still got a lot to learn. So we'll work together. I'll be your friend. I'm your friend always when I'm your professor. I want to help you. I want to encourage you to grow, to learn the content, to succeed in this class, and we'll work together to make sure that happens this term. So may God bless you in your studies in Genesis.